God bless everybody. Today it is April 17th of 2024, and we are quickly moving to that April 20th date that I've been alluding to for some time. I don't know if anything will happen on that date, but that date is 1260 days to the Feast of Trumpets of 27, and so we sort of need to see what's going on there. You got a lot going on with Israel and Iran right now. I'm getting ready to do a report on that. And if Israel does attack Iran in any substantial way, that is going to change the market dynamic dramatically. So let's get into these numbers real quick and we'll show you what I'm talking about. So I always go through the numbers because that's what matters out here to determine what's going on in the market. And I've alluded to how this 2-year bond is dictating where the Fed is. And that's why Jay Powell can't do anything, because the 2-year bond has moved up. Well, yesterday it moved up over 5%. Okay, this is bad because this is forcing all your rates to go up on the 10-year, which I'm going to show you in a second, which then applies to all your loans on your cars, your houses, commercial. Everything that you do, credit cards, things like that, are getting applied to the 10-year rate because that's what they use. But the banks borrow at the 2-year rate, and they're borrowing at 5% right now and trying to loan in an inversion. Okay, so that's extremely important. Now, when you go to this 10-year rate, which affects your loans and everything else that you deal with in your life, if you have any debt whatsoever, it's usually pinned off the 10-year loan. Well, as you can see, the 10-year loan or 10-year rate Treasury has gone up significantly. Now, I believe they're having a 2-year Treasury sale today. If that goes badly, that could dictate the markets today, so we'll see how that goes. The bonds aren't doing well in sales because Janet Yellen keeps printing them and they're becoming worthless and nobody wants them due to the inversion, and the bond rates keep melting up, and so nobody knows what to do with that. So that's why nobody's buying them. That's why Janet Yellen's in trouble, because she's filling the gap between the amount of money they're spending and the hole they have in their deficit, which is about 1.5 trillion, and that's why she's printing $1 trillion in bonds every 100 days. Now, if you've just bought a house and you had a small dip, you probably bought into this nightmare. Well, your 30-year fix has moved up to 8%. I keep talking about this, guys. Look, when your 10 moves up to where it is, and let's go back to the 10 real quick. So let's look at this real quick. And this is the real problem. You have an inversion that's going to uninvert soon, okay? And when it does, it will break the markets, and Jay Powell will have lost this battle, and then they'll cut rates, or they'll cut to zero. They'll do all kinds of stuff to try to offset this. If this 2-year rate keeps moving up, where he's at, Jay Powell's at 5.5%. Okay, if this keeps moving up, Jay's going to have to potentially raise before the end of the year, not cut, and he probably won't be able to cut rates at all this year at best, unless it crashes, which it could happen as we move into this nightmare as we're walking into Iran and Israel. So you got a potential nightmare scenario here where Jay Powell is destroying the markets out here because of the dollar strength that's building out here, and the 2-year rate keeps moving up, and that's forcing Jay not to be able to lower rates, which is forcing all the other central banks all kinds of angst because they cannot reduce their rates, which is killing their monetary systems over there. And just like I'm going to show you, the Japanese yen is crashing. So you got a 30-year fixed rate at 8%. That could go to double digits pretty quickly if this 10-year melts up, okay? It's just that simple. If that 10-year goes up to the point where you're at 6 or 7 or 8%, can you imagine what that's going to do to your rates out here? You're going to be at double digits in no time. And this is probably going to happen because there's no way to stop the bonds at this point. You know, I always talk about metals because they're the safe haven out here. I know a lot of people can't afford metals. I always allude to, you can probably, over time, even if you take a couple months, you can buy an ounce of silver every once in a while. It's a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against monetary wealth destruction out here in these kind of markets, and it moves up in value. And as the markets cave, metals will move up. And so you want to diversify into something that can get you a buffer out here, a hedge against what's going on. And that's what the big guys are doing. Okay. I'm not trying to tell you something that isn't going on out here. Anybody with any real wealth is hedging right now against energy because fuels are moving up, metals because they're moving up. Bonds are not really good place because they don't know where they're going to end up, and so there's not a lot of places to go in here. You can hold cash until something crashes, which could happen here soon. You could end up in a fire sale as this thing breaks out. You've had gold over $2,400. You're at almost 2850 at silver or higher now. Let's do a refresh, see if that changes anything. Nope. So you're moving up to $29 on silver. You know, silver's gone up to over, 45 bucks. So, that's a possibility that once this thing corrects and the dispersion between gold and silver actually goes away, silver will modify back to its normal rate and it'll be 4 times what it is right now, which is where it should be. So you just sort of want to keep an eye on this, and I'm not a financial advisor in any way, shape, or form, and so I'm just letting you know that that is how I would look at this play if I was going to use anything out here on this. Bitcoin is being affected by this. This has dropped tremendously in the last few days. As you can see, we've gone from, let's say, a high of about 71.4 back down to 62.7. So if you bought in up there, you're holding a bag that you can't get rid of right now, and this is getting ready to drop below 60, which is through support. And as you can see, we're at that support system. Okay, so look, you've got a support line here, approximately. You're running into support right now. If this drops, as I've been talking about for some time, if you drop this below 60,000, that drops you down into the next support zone, which is around 51.750. If you fall through that support, it drops you down into this support line down into here, which is around 40 grand. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not throwing these numbers out because I don't know what's going on here. The charts tell you what's coming. You got a triple top here, at least, which is probably why you're moving down. You're moving out of your zone. It's going to drop below 60 probably. We'll see how the bond thing goes today on their sale. That could dictate how the markets react to everything as we move forward into the day. And yes, this will move up and down, but the trajectory is down, as you can sell. So you've got a 2-year 10 inversion that's uninverting. As you can see, there's a trend up. You've actually sliced about 10 basis points off the inversion, so now you're moving towards neutral. When this crosses and uninverts, the system will break. You are in one of the longest inversions that we've ever had in history, which means once it breaks, it's going to be extremely ugly. It's just that simple. And when it does break, because Jay Powell will have lost the battle, he will have to reduce rates to 0, start to infuse money into the system so that he can restart the economy, which will be too late to do anything about because he will already have lost the game. So when you start to see the Fed react tremendously and they pivot from we can't cut, we probably can't cut till the end of the year, we might have to raise, and then they all of a sudden go to 0, we're in trouble. Okay, now I've talked about the US dollar strength, which has been moving up tremendously on the foreign markets. Okay, this is destroying the global currencies out here. And the dollar moves up like this, it weakens all the other currencies out here. Okay, so the dollar strength is a lot of what's going on out here, and that's why you're having market destruction right now. And I've talked about how currencies like the Japanese yen are being impacted by this tremendously. Look, anytime the Japanese yen goes over 150, that's deterioration of their dollar. Okay, it's a yen, but it's our dollar. It gives them less buying power. It gives them no ability to go out and purchase and be competitive. Okay, so these markets are crashing based on the dollar strength. If this moves up any further, 155 to 160, it could go to 160. The banks have to step in and liquidity the system to buffer the bond fallout. Okay, that hyperinflates everything because you're adding additional money into the system. So this is a cycle that we don't want to get into. The Japanese are extremely worried right now, along with multiple other currencies out here, on how they're going to deal with this dollar strength, as it's destroying their markets at this very moment in time. Okay, it's one of the reasons everybody's buying up gold right now and silver, because they're hedging against these failing currencies that are out here. So anyway, just keep your eye on stuff. They're talking about potentially gold going up to 3,000. I could see silver easily pushing $35 to $40 here in the near future as these markets start to crash. So that's something you want to think about. You could have some dropbacks in metals, but you will get a pop back in them. So you might get a dip, and you could buy down on that dip. That's something you want to take advantage of. But even God tells you the gold and silver won't matter in the end. It just won't matter. It's just a hedge against destruction out here, guys. That's what I've been trying to explain to you for a while. You know, as we move into this beast system, there will be an underground system that will probably accept metals. Okay, you might have to be a little careful about how you move stuff like that. But there's always going to be a market for metals. They're always, in time, in history, throughout time, throughout destruction of all kinds of wars and stuff, metals have always been worth something. But there will be a point in time where we won't be here anymore and they won't matter. So don't get into the physical aspect of the metals. They're there to help you against destruction. Okay, that's the only reason that I'm out here promoting the metals, is because the dollar strength will finally, look, the dollar will finally destroy itself, because it's destroying the global markets. Okay, and the global markets will move away from the dollar, as we're watching the BRICS and everybody doing right now. And what's happening right now, probably the most important thing that we should be watching. And I warned you about this in my last video. If the Saudis embargo, if you get an embargo, you'll have that $250 to $350 oil again. And that's what you should be really concerned about, because that will shock the market. And I've explained this to you many times. Look, Israel is getting ready to attack Iran. That's going to drive your price of fuel up over $100. Okay? You get an embargo, or let's say you get the Strait of Hormuz to shut down, which they haven't done yet, but we've had all kinds of problems over there. That's going to put you up around the $125 range or higher. You get an embargo, that pushes you here. Okay? It's a domino effect. It happens the same way every time. All you got to go is back to 1973, and what happened then is going to happen again. It's just a history lesson repeating itself. Look, life is a history lesson that repeats itself, just as the Bible is a history lesson that's going to repeat itself. I can't give you exact times or dates, but I'm telling you it's going to play out just as the Bible says it has in the past. So once you finally get this invasion into Israel, which is coming, Hezbollah has not unleashed itself, and it's going to soon. It's going to change the dynamic. We're close on the paradigm and the charts, okay, guys? We're close. I can't give you exact. But you can come out and look at my chart at endofdaysurvival.com. I probably need to update some videos out here. Sorry guys, I'm behind on some things. Click on this file here. This gives you the newest updated chart, which I need to update again. This is a real-time chart, so it's changing as we're moving in time. So just realize that if you come into the chart to about in here, okay, this is where you are. You just went through April 8th. I talked about how Ramadan ends on April 9th through the 10th. You're working into the 20th. We didn't have a sixth seal, but it's coming up, guys. Okay? Look at the Bible, look at Revelation, look at the sequence events, see what's coming up next. You're in the middle of wars, rumors of wars. You're in the first four seals, moving into the fifth seal, martyrs, as a quarter of the world's getting ready to be taken over. And then what do you have? You have a sixth seal that moves you into a trumpet phase, okay? So the next thing you ought to be watching for is a sixth seal event, which is a large earthquake event going on in it, and all kinds of things during the wrath of the Lamb in Revelation 6:16, which actually the sixth seal goes from Revelation 6:12, verse 12 through 17. Then you go into chapter 8, that takes you into the seventh seal and what's going to happen as you move forward into the trumpets. This is all going to look, and when that sixth seal pops, which is probably when Israel is going to be under massive duress. And I sort of look at it this way. Okay, so Israel attacked, or Iran attacked Israel, which I'm going to do a video on soon. They sent about 300 missiles, drones, and different things against them. Israel knocked down 99% of them through a coordinated joint effort through allies, which is a real problem because that's bringing everybody into the war. And so now we're in World War III, basically. And so then you're going to see what? Israel's talked about a retaliatory strike against Iran. Okay, so if they retaliate, of course, Iran's going to have to retaliate in kind based on the amount of action and force that the Israelis did. Okay, just as Israel's reacting to 300 missiles, which is unprecedented, coming over to their border and having to have them all knocked down, which was great. Nothing really got hurt, but it was just the impact of the message that Iran had sent over there. Okay? I'm very concerned about this April 20th date. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Maybe this is the sixth seal. This chart's starting to get interesting because you're moving into a situation where you're moving into this 1260-day gap between April 20th and October 2nd and 3rd of 27. Look, if this is in the Shemitah cycle and it moves out of 27, Feast of Trumpets, then you go into 28 or 29 until you start a new Shemitah cycle. Look, we don't want to expand this chart out if we don't have to, guys. I'm hoping that it falls within the generation prior to the strong generational end. If this moves out further into 28, we're going to be here for a while, guys, and it just expands. Look, if you fall out of this Shemitah cycle, you expand to another year or two. Because you got to think about Feast of Trumpets 28 and 29. Then you end your Shemitah cycle. You're in this Shemitah cycle here. Okay? Look, I can't guarantee this is going to happen by the Feast of Trumpets 27. Based on my research, this is when it should have happened, and we're in this generation prior to the strong generational end. Could it happen? Yes. But he's going to have to speed this up. Okay, to make this all work out and all the information that he's given us. So I'm just letting you know, I'm concerned that we may expand out another year or two here if this doesn't start to play out. And, you know, I don't like to see destruction on anybody, but I don't want to spend another year or two on the ground in this nightmare. So I'm hoping that this thing's starting to play out faster. Not in the sense that I want destruction to happen, but in the sense that I want the Lord to come back. Okay, and I'm sure you all do too. So I'm sure you don't all want it to expand out another year or two. So God bless. Keep your eye on this thing. It's getting crazy out here. Be safe. God bless.